Now, I should be looking at the camera, shouldn't I?
We'll just have a conversation. Okay, so this is my mom, Elaine Ray Bagley. I'm Rob Bagley. And it is the first day of 2025. Wanted to get a little of your history in regards to where you lived growing up. Like, where were you born? What houses did you live in? And a little bit about that.
I was born at Mesa General Hospital, which is down on Main. It's now turned into a university.
Oh, the Benedict University or something?
That was the old Mesa General Hospital. And every time Mom would have a baby, we'd go over by the windows and get to see her through the windows.
Is the building torn down and they just built it on top, or it's the same building?
It's the red brick building is still there. They used it. They used the outside of it anyway. We lived at 31 East 1st Street, right, one street back from Main. We had this great old southern Utah type home with a big cement porch with brick around the edges. And as a child, it seemed like a really big porch. I don't know if it really was, but
is the house still there, or is it?
No, the house is gone. They built a very successful law office in our place. And we had 3 little houses behind our house that we rented, and one that was a little bigger than the others. So we always had interesting people that were part of our lives because we had a really big backyard.
So your parents had rental properties the whole time you were growing up?
Right. My grandmother, Grandma Ray, was a real entrepreneur-ish person. She was a very business-like person.
And the Rays are, who are we talking about?
Well, Grandpa Ray was raised in the colonies.
Okay, so this is
from polygamy family.
So the John Alexander Ray, like that, that line of Rays. Line. And what was his name?
Sims Flood Ray.
Sims Flood Ray. And he married
Nellie Ellsworth.
Nellie Ellsworth.
So we're related to lots of people because Ellsworth is a very big family.
Okay, so these are not the people from Missouri.
No, this is my dad's
family.
People
from the colonies.
From the colonies were all on my dad's side.
Okay, so Nellie Ellsworth, who married Sims Flood Ray, she was an entrepreneur.
She was very business oriented. Yes, Grandpa was a really good hard worker, but she pretty much ran the show as to
kind of what they were going to do,
and stuff like that. And Grandpa was pretty clever himself because it was during the Depression. And nobody could get work. You know, you've seen them on screen where everybody's lined up to get a job and they say, you, and 90% of them have to go home. And he had gone out to get a job working on the roads and he didn't get picked. But he went to the work site and started working anyway. And the guy says, you weren't picked. And he says, I have to have something to do. And he just went every day and worked until the guy,
like, well, you're good.
And also, he says, we can do this better. He brought his horse, and Dad rode the horse, and Grandpa manned the big board,
or whatever,
a planer, to smooth the gravel or dirt or whatever. And so they were happy that he was
hard worker and also improving the processes.
Thinking about fixing what needed to be fixed. So he was good with that. And they always had, they had good times and bad times because it was during the Depression. And they moved from Wickenburg out to Chandler, in Mesa. They kind of...
Were you alive
I was not alive at that point. This is, back in the Depression time. Real soon I was born in 44 and the Depression was in the 40s.
Or I think it was 29 started and...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so... this is Sims Flood and Nellie Ellsworth, and Grandpa, your dad. That family is what we're talking about right now.
Right, and also it's good to mention that, the Ephraim Hanks.
Yeah,
we are related to Ephraim Hanks. I'm not sure where the Hanks line comes in from, but fairly soon in our genealogy we link into the Hanks,
I didn't
and
know that.
he was a relative of Grandpa's and ours, and so he was a man of faith. We had roots from the beginning. There were very few that didn't follow in the gospel. They were good, solid people. Grandmother was very good at listening to the Spirit. Grandma Nellie. She was warned many times of things she should do and not do, and somebody else's card gets stolen because it was right next to hers, and she had made some special or locked it or something. Anyway, she was really good, and she prayed always that her trials would be small. You know, he can give her as many as she wanted, but she
I think lots of trials, but I'd like them in the small size.
Right. And she had a lot of faith, and until Norman died, you know, there weren't any big traumas.
How did Norman die?
He was just put in the bishopric, and he got sick immediately. With his lungs were just full; he couldn't breathe, and I think he had asthma, which was Grandpa had asthma, and
Sims Flood.
Sims Flood had asthma, and I think Norman had some asthma, and so the first just thought it was a cold, but so it took him a few weeks to figure out what was going wrong. And everybody was praying for him because he was really sick. And Muriel, his wife, had 9 children. The oldest was about 12. And she had been praying and praying for Norman to get well. And she says, well, if you need him more than I do, then take him. And he died very soon thereafter. And she was sorry that she told the Lord that, because she just felt like she needed him more. But Dad and Oakley took care of Norman's family until she could get educated and become a realtor and handle, earning some money on her own. But they were very good about taking care of family members.
How old were they, and where was she in the
Well, he was the youngest.
Dad was?
Norman was.
Norman was the youngest.
Norman was the youngest. And so he would have been, 15 years older or something like that. Maybe 18 years older.
Okay. So Dad and Oakley were more established in their career at that point. And so they
not that we ever felt like, there was lots of money, but they just knew the priorities.
Yeah.
And they always bought Grandma and Grandpa's cars and made sure that they were taking care of them. It was never discussed, hardly ever. So I don't really know, but Grandma and Grandpa had rentals at their house, where we'll go see tomorrow or today. They had a rental in the basement and a rental around the back of the house over by the temple. So they always had that income. And I don't know about Social Security or any of that stuff, whether they were on it or not, but probably they were. Been around for a long time. But whatever they needed, Oakley and Dad took care of. They would go to the summer in Pine every year. They were the Grandma and Grandpa Ray.
Okay.
Always. They had a little trailer house kind of connected to a little room, a tiny room. So it was just a little...
So like a trailer you pull behind, that kind of...
that kind of a trailer.
And then
a little room connected to it, so it was a bigger space than a small trailer. And we'd go over there and play card games. Grandma was a great card game player. Rook. Nobody was allowed to have face cards back then. That was evil, because people used them to gamble. Of course, the cards weren't evil, but they just, the church didn't look highly on having those in their home, in your home. And so we didn't ever have face cards in our home.
But you'd like to play Rook, and she was good at
Rook and Uno and any of those kind of games. But they played cards several times a week, with whatever grandkids wanted to play. And they were the only one that had a car. They had a car up in Pine, and they'd go into town and get the mail, and if they needed some milk or something. But the 2 mothers that had 11 children each living up there next door
didn't have a car.
And on the weekends, Oakley and Dad would come up and bring all the groceries. They'd get whatever groceries we needed because the store up there, if they even had a grocery store, there was very
Probably a
limited.
little market, little tiny.
Yeah, they probably had a tiny market that was connected to the post office, I think. But they brought the groceries up on the weekends, and we spent several years every summer in Pine. And then as kids started, too many of them started getting older, it was hard because of the jobs and stuff like that. So it wasn't as much. We didn't go as much later on.
That was fun.
Oh, it was great fun. I would go up there and sew. We chopped down.
From what age were?
I was 11 when I went up there the first time.
And you were sewing at 11, or?
Oh, well, yeah. I was sewing out of second grade, however old you are in second grade. That was when I started sewing. I think I made my first skirt in the second grade. And every year I would look at what I'd made the year before and I'd just be embarrassed because I'd gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
And that was last year's didn't look as good. And I've been sewing for so many years that I've made every mistake 2 or 3 times, so I can fix things really well. And I have found out that every time, whether me or somebody that brought me a problem, that when I finished fixing something that needed fixing, it was always better than had the problem not happened. So I didn't really key into it that was a real gift of mine. But my Aunt Maxine said, oh, you know, that's why I bring you all my stuff, because your brain goes to the answer, not to the problem. Mm. So I thought, yeah, that really is true, but I hadn't really recognized it for myself. But I am definitely a fix-it person. When something bad happens, my mind really does go to fix it, which has been a great blessing. We lived until I was in second grade down on 31 First Street, and then we moved out to 730 East University.
Okay, so yeah. About this east, but over on University.
On University.
Okay.
On University.
Is that the house the Murdochs lived in later?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We had a 3-bedroom home and eventually 11 kids. I think probably Rob was on his way out of the home by the time John was born. But it was pretty tight space. The 3 oldest girls were in 1 bedroom. There was a little room behind a garage that Rob was in, and then eventually Stephen was in.
And that's one of the 3 bedrooms?
No, that was a bonus.
A makeshift.
We eventually, it was first just a bonus room, small room, and then eventually we filled in the garage to be like a family TV room. And there was also another bedroom added at that point. And so then Janelle and I moved out to that room. And I think Joanne might have moved out. I think she slept on a rollaway bed out in the family room. Because I remember every night she was an old movie buff. And as I was headed to my room to go to bed, she'd say, oh, you got to see this, The Little Women or whatever it was. She was always really into the good stories. And I was always into go to bed. By the end of the day, I was tired. And so I didn't get hung up. Now I do get hung up on. I stay up too late watching movies. But I was really good about going to bed when I was younger. We had kind of a sewing room, baby room was the other bedroom. Mom and Dad had a room, the girls had a room, and then the sewing room, baby room, we had beds and closets on top of cedar chests, just a pad, and that was somebody's bed. And we had a bed, like a twin bed. Maybe it was a double bed, but I think it was probably a twin bed and a baby crib, always in the sewing room. And then Mother would try to sometimes use it as a sewing room, but it was pretty tight quarters. And we had 1 bathroom.
And the other room was bunk beds or what?
Janelle and I slept in a double bed, probably. It wasn't queen. We slept in a double bed, and Joanne had a twin. What about the boys? The boys were younger, and so they were mostly in the sewing room until Janelle and Joanne and I moved out. and then the older girls moved over.
What
by
about
then.
Robert? Was he?
Robert was gone when we moved out there, and Stephen was out there.
Right.
So Stephen was out in the boy room, and it was all the girls, Melody, Margie, Sydney, Julie, were probably, well, Julie was probably in the baby room for a while until, as we left home, they'd kind of rotate into the bigger girls outside. But finally, we took our laundry room and turned it into a vanity makeup, do your hair, wash your face, and put an extra bathroom, just a potty room, just a separate little potty room, which was way needed with that many people. There were 13 of us trying to use one bathroom. And we had a shower in that room.
So like a half bath kind of?
Well, there was a toilet room and a shower, and then there was this big counter with a sink. So it was a full bathroom. The counter was seemed really long. It was probably 4 feet, might have been 5. It was probably 5 feet because there were so many girls wanting to be there to comb their hair. And I used to do hair when I went through beauty school. I had customers come, and that's where I did their hair, is in that little space. We had a fence in the front yard because university was busy back then. Not busy like it is now, but we thought we were kind of out in the country because there weren't a lot of homes out here. And we had this big piece of property, and most of the homes across the street weren't here. And there were a few on the next.
With your parents and that.
Look up there and see, is that a helicopter? Oh, you can't see it now. Is it started?
Yeah.
Oh, you can see. We had a garage that we turned into a family room, and it had 2 bedrooms on the end. And it also had a storeroom in the back of it that was super scary to go get milk because the extra fridge was out there.
Oh, okay.
And it was like saddling the horse. It was probably even worse. I'd go out there because it was dark. There was no light to turn on. And it was just this junky kind of storeroom. And you were sure somebody was out there that was going to attack you. And I remember just trying to control my mind that I am brave, everything's fine, and then running back to the house.
Okay, so you were in this house on university.
On university.
And you'd added onto it a little bit. You went away to college. They built the house next door on 706 or whatever, East 3rd Street.
710. 730 is what they're
730 East 3rd Street. And even though Grandpa was successful at this point, he built a modest outside house, very, very plain.
Yeah. He never, ever wanted any poorer person than himself to feel like they were beneath him.
He never wanted to appear pretentious.
Right, ever. I mean, he was so conservative in that way that when I bought, with Mom while he was hunting, a beautiful dinette set.
Like a scratch and dent.
And dent from Levitt's. I bought, the chairs it wasn't a set. We put them together. But the chairs were really pretty. They were solid wood with little cutouts. I think I remember those.
Did they have those? Yeah, so kind of a heavy.
We still have them. Richard has them up in Pine.
Kind of like a throne chair.
Right.
Kind of.
They were kind of like a throne chair. Yeah. And she had made these gorgeous brocaded red drapes for her dining room, and it was perfect for her dining room.
Uh-huh.
And since Mother had never had anything but in our family room down at the other end of the street, our couches in our family area were like benches out of a school bus with metal legs and metal arms and Naugahyde. I mean, it was not, and the table was a giant slab door that we'd built. Grandpa had built a bench on the backside and the side. But we did not have any fancy furniture. And when Dad came home from hunting, he kind of had a fit. He did not want.
You bought this fancy dining set.
He did not want somebody to come in and see this royal looking
Oh yeah, these royal chairs, and I'm
chairs with the
fancy.
red brocaded drapes, and that was really against his code of
his brand,
his brand. And
so
so he
it
wanted
wasn't
Mom to,
it wasn't the cost of the things.
no, because we got
it
them
was a really
in the
good
scratch and
deal.
dent. It was
It's
a
the fact that
super
they
good
looked
deal.
fancy,
Right,
that
right.
he was like going to
Wasn't
be
the cost
embarrassed.
at
He was
all.
going to be embarrassed, like he's putting on airs, and I'm rich. Look
I
how
think the
fancy.
table was $60, and the chairs were 40, maybe 50, and they would normally have been a $300 chair.
So it's mostly he was just
He
concerned
didn't
about the
want to put on
appearance
the
of
show.
fancy. Yeah.
Right. He didn't want to look like he was putting on a show. And so Mom came over and says, I think we have to take it all back. And I says, no, you're not, Mom. You deserve some nice furniture. This is your final home, and you're going to keep them. They're not out of the budget. They're just pretty. And I'm not going to let you take them back. You just are not going to. You just hang tough, and it'll be fine. He'll get over it. And he did eventually.
That reminds me of a story of you talking about Patsy Bagley, about Jerry also being very penny pension, kind of frugal, and something about, hey, you deserve to have heat in your house, or I don't know, some
Oh yeah,
women's lib attitude you've been pushing around your.
yeah. She would run out of firewood, and he'd be off somewhere, and she'd be cold in this little cabin. And so I really told her that was unacceptable, and you get a heater in here. She had little kids. It was cold. It was Wyoming. Yeah. Anyway, they kept the furniture. We still have it in the family. Dad's family had good times, bad times. They sold houses and rented houses, and Grandma was a very business person.
So this is the Rays from the Mexican colonies, polygamy. This is given the Sims Flood Ray and Nellie Ellsworth that we're talking about. And you told me that Nellie just kind of had an entrepreneurial mind for business.
Yeah, she was very business.
And Sims was a hard worker, and so she'd kind of be the strategy of the business, and he'd be the labor, the work of it.
And during the Depression, when they'd pick 2 or 3 men out of a line of 15 to work, he didn't get picked once. And so he went to work anyway. And the guy says, hey, we didn't pick you. And he says, I'm just going to work anyway.
Got to do something.
And and he was a really good worker.
So then eventually he just got hired.
So eventually he got hired. But not only that, is they were doing roads, and he brought his horse that my dad drove, and he was just little. He was just a little kid, maybe 9 or 10. He drove the horse, and Grandpa Sims put the leveler, a big board,
to plane the road.
And it saved a lot of time because they were just hand doing it with shovel. So they were really glad that they had hired him, because he got more money because he was doing.
So was he normally kind of a process improver or problem solver, or?
Obviously, to some degree. That was a story that I knew of.
What about Nellie? Was she?
Nellie would have been.
I feel like you told somebody was sort of like a problem solver.
Nellie would have been a problem solver. She was extremely positive. She had a lot of faith, and she listened to the spirit. She was reminded of different things that would give her safety and things to avoid, and she was very, very good at listening to the spirit. And she always had wonderful spiritual stories to tell to us. And Grandma,
how much did she influence your mom's spirituality? Do you think?
I do not know, other than she would have had to have been. I think they were pretty staunch in her family.
Betty?
But when she came down here as an 18-year-old girl, she was helped in her cooking skills by Grandma. She taught Mom to brown the roast if you want good gravy, and brown the gravy down so that it's really rich.
Mm-hmm.
So we're some of the best gravy makers in town because of those little tips that Grandma Ray gave. Grandma Ray was a nurse.
I didn't know that.
She was a nurse. And during the epidemics where
Spanish flu and
the
whatever.
so many people died that she quit being a nurse. She couldn't take
Losing
seeing
that
so
many
many
people.
children die. It was just destroying her. So she quit being a nurse. It was just too hard on her. And it made her very aware of, she always prayed all her life that her trials would be small, that she could handle them. And she was very lucky, and she always would tell us stories that where they were saved from something or another. Somebody she
Do you think
envisioned.
that's? I mean, you kind of have a. I've heard your philosophy about trials, and was that something that was talked about? Of like
I'm
that you're
sure.
going to get trials in life, and it's
I'm
part of the
sure
plan, and you're.
that was one of my mother's best skills, which I did not know that I picked up on and did to my own children until my mother-in-law told me. She told Julie and Christy, and when I went there one summer, they said, "Mom just says that you're just the best teacher, and that she just loves how you are with your kids." And I was only just doing what my mom did. It wasn't anything that I
So
even thought about.
so I don't know why I'm getting emotional about this.
Grandma was very
So
spiritual.
Nellie was a good teacher of faith and
Very good.
the gospel and trusting God.
Uh-huh.
And
She
one way
shared
or
that.
another, that may have influenced Betty. If she didn't get it from her side of the family, she would have also seen it
Right.
from Nellie's side.
Right.
And then your mom was good at doing the same thing about teaching faith and trusting God, and things
Yeah.
are going to work out.
It's like when, I don't know whether it was you, it was probably somebody, well, when the kids would come up from the basement and say, "Do I have to go to church? I don't want to go to church." I say, "No, you don't have to go to church. You get to. But if you don't want to go to church, do you want to be without his help getting safely to school? Do you want Jerem, who's in a dangerous place, to be safe on his mission? Do you want help with your test this week? You decide whether you want to go to church or not. You get blessings when you're obedient that you may not get when you're not." That was just the form of teaching, is there are consequences to every action, and we can make life. I pray constantly that I will learn what I need to learn so it doesn't have to be jammed down my throat.
That's what I'm talking about. That I've heard your whole life is like, I want to try to learn the life lessons that I'm supposed to learn without God needing to give me a trial to learn them.
And I think that came from Grandma Ray.
Okay.
Um,
Like Nellie
right,
Ray.
Nellie
Okay.
Ray. And also, it's fun to know that Edmund Ellsworth was the first handcart captain, and he was a cousin to Grandma.
A cousin.
Or first or second cousin.
I think it's direct line grandparent kind of something, but
Yeah. Anyway, that was kind of cool. Wait a minute. Edmund Ellsworth was the first captain. Hanks was the healer.
Yeah.
Hanks was the one who.
Yeah, Edmund is our
of faith.
direct ancestor,
Right.
And Hanks might be a cousin or something. But
Hanks was going back and forth on those treks with people.
yeah,
He'd just kind of ride in on a horse and
Martin and Willie, and
he'd healed dozens of people.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a man of faith. When he went to rescue them.
Well, let's stick on our ancestors for. I mean, he's kind of adjacent, but I want to hear a little bit more about because we're
Grandma and Grandpa.
We're getting a little bit close out on time. So, Sims and Nellie had a place on what's the street over by the temple?
I think it's First Street.
Is it First Street?
Uh-huh.
And that house is still there.
First place.
And they had
two little apartments
in the back, but they also rented their basement and the back part of their house.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, being in the rental / landlord business is a long tradition in this family.
It's a long tradition. When we lived on, I think, did I already probably did. Yeah,
About
our rentals on First Street. The
I
three
don't know if you
houses in
did
the
since
back.
we started the camera over.
Well, but that would have been before we got out here with the
Oh,
beds room.
okay.
So I think we got that.
Okay.
Uh,
So, and Nellie was entrepreneur. We talked about that kind of mindset, and
it was important that they spent the summers in Pine with us every year.
okay, so they had a little
They had
little camper.
a little camper,
They
and
built a lean-to kind of thing
that
off
Oakley
of it.
and Dad built a little sitting room. The camper was probably their bedroom area.
And they had a car, and the two other mothers up there didn't have a car. Yeah. A lot of kids. And
a lot of kids. Both mothers had 11 children, and
both mothers, meaning
Janet and my mother.
Okay, Betty and Janet both had 11 children.
And so that was a lot of kids to take out of the hot summer.
Oh, yeah.
It was wonderful. And the kids would just run the creek and just run free.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just wonderful. I was 11 when we went
to Pine.
And
you were already sewing your own clothes.
Yeah, I was sewing my own clothes, and so I did a lot of sewing. I didn't run the creek as much as the kids did, but we even fished out of the creek, and Mom would fry up these little miniature fish, and they were so good. They were delicious. What was I going to say about
Pine or Nellie and Sims? Or
Nellie had all the kids came over on Sundays
to
her house over there by the temple. I think probably we just had dessert, but we may have had some meals, and then as the families grew, then it was. I mean, she had a tiny place. It was a tiny home, and we spent a lot of time out on the porch and playing hide and go seek in their yards and stuff like that. And there was just half of as many kids as later. But yeah. She was a grandma that you went and visited when you came home from college. You went over and checked in on your grandma and told her what was going on.
I borrow a little bit of this. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
she was very interesting to visit with.
Now, you did it because you were supposed to, or just because you were anxious to update her? Or
I don't remember feeling compelled, but she might have said, "I want to hear what's going on" or something, and so I would have gone. I don't remember. I just know that people would be going in and out of her house, her grandkids.
Okay.
So she was a grandma that was interesting.
Interested? Or
interested and interesting.
Okay.
Both. In fact, when one of the important stories is when I went to BYU, I went there thinking that I would meet my husband in Utah or somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I expected to know him because I had been praying for like 4 or 5 years that I would know my husband when I saw him. And so when I was going to be in a program, a BYU program, they had a bunch of us girls go to be dancers, and they invited a bunch of guys to come and dance with us. And when Errol walked through the door, he walked through just like 3 musketeers busting through these double doors. And they were all dark-haired, nice-looking boys, not as good-looking as Errol, however. And I knew I was going to marry him. I felt like a semi-truck kind of went over me. It was a very, very powerful, specific.
Not just like, oh, he's so cute, but just
no, because I never swooned over movie stars, or that was not me. I mean, I would see if they were cute or not, but they didn't affect me.
Yeah,
he did. And so I started praying that he'd be my partner. And then I said, well, no, I want him to want me to be his partner. And he was my partner.
Was it a pick thing or a sign thing?
Well, we were just mingling, There's 12 people and get a partner, and I was available. I don't remember the exact thing, but I didn't run over and grab his hand because that wasn't my way. I wanted to be picked. And somehow we were partners. And we did this dance that, where the girl rolls in and the legs lift and up in the sky. And I mean, it was really romantic.
A lesson
That was one of the dances we were doing. It was kind
What
of
do
a
you mean?
love dance.
Like
We were going to be in a program.
in a program. Okay.
We learned 2 different dances.
Okay.
One of them was this kind of
Romantic
dance, and one of them was
like the polka or some kind of
something like that. Very much like that. Anyway, so that's how we got to know each other. Now, of course, he didn't know at that point. He liked me, and we invited our boyfriends over to dinner once for a little dinner party at our condominium or wherever we were living there. And Errol was not very talkative. It was hard to get him to really relax and talk a lot. But he dated probably 20 girls when he was at BYU his freshman year. So he was really making the rounds.
Mm-hmm.
I was the only girl he dated more than once. And we went to conference, we went to firesides, we went to some of the formals. We went over to his brother's house, and so we dated. I was dating other boys, so it wasn't like exclusive at all. And it was very interesting, but not very emotionally satisfying. He was very aloof, and I didn't realize it, but probably part of the problem is he didn't hear me, because
he's already deaf
deaf
in one ear.
on the ear that I would sit next to in a car. And so I would start up a conversation, and it would die. He wouldn't pick up on it or say anything, and I'd feel foolish and stupid. And I'd start up a conversation, and after about 3 times, it's like, okay. So sometimes, even though I felt strongly that I was going to marry him, I'd think, I'm never going out with him again. It's just too stressful. I don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd see him from a distance, and it would be like a glow around him. So it was, the Lord was just, trying to keep me remembering what was going on. And I wrote in a letter that I was dating Errol Bagley, and my mother knew that I was going to marry him. My grandmother knew that I was going to marry him, Nellie, because they're intuitive, to the spirit. Mm-hmm. And of course, it didn't happen for 3 years because he still had his mission to go on. And I could have got married like 3 or 4 times while he was gone, but I never could shake the fact that I knew already who I was supposed to marry.
Interesting.
So that was fairly important in my life as far as listening to the spirit.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the important things is that because he was difficult to date, when I was dating him, when he came home, I was emotionally in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And the emotional relationships are quite a bit more
hard to get out of,
satisfying, whatever. And I wasn't getting right, I wasn't just,
because the guy you were dating needed you, and
he needed me. And he kind of wasn't letting go easy, even though I told him I didn't think it was going to work or whatever. Anyway, and I'd have these feelings, somebody else is going to get your husband, somebody else is going to get your husband, somebody else is going to get your husband. And then it started coming in, somebody else is going to get your kids. And that's when I heard.
So that's always what the Lord uses as his last resort to get your attention.
Yeah.
You want somebody else to raise your kids, get your kids?
Yeah. He knows that I was born a mother. And so the other big important story was about when my mom was killed. They were going to conference, and they were taking a car up to Richard and Susan, a car that Errol had found for Richard. So my dad was driving that car, and I was going to go because I have brothers and sisters going to BYU, and I thought it would be fun. But I was kind of praying about it because I had 4 little kids. Yeah, 4 little kids. And it's always hard for me to leave my kids. But anyway, I was giving her a permanent the day before. And I remember coming through the door. I went to the kitchen, which was over there, around the corner from the hall. And I had this feeling of a crash. And the words kind of typed, "You don't need someone else to raise your kids," across my brain. And so I fixed Mom this leftover sweet and sour pork that I'd made the night before, and I told her that I wasn't going to go and that this was why. And then that night, I went next door to comb out her hair and reminded her, be careful. Because you don't know if your brain's just picking up whatever until it's verified. I mean, I knew enough that I had told her I wasn't going to go. I wasn't taking any chances. And of course, she was killed. And what the Lord informed me of during that period was why she needed to go, was because of the understanding of her ability to love and draw people to her and to share the gospel. She was a magnet to the wounded, the weary. We always had someone that we were shepherding in our family. And Dad and Mom, Dad was on a stake mission, and they were always doing missionary work. And my job was to fix their hair after they got baptized. that was my part. But I remember feeling so completely the understanding of where she was, what her job was, and that God, let me know that He needed her, was so profound that I couldn't be sad. I mean, I cried for John and Julie and Dad, but I couldn't be sad for Mom, even though I was Mom's protector. I'm the one that gave her foot massages and fixed her hair and had Dad come over for dinner when she wasn't home, because then she'd be in trouble because he liked meals. Anyway, and that part was good because I wasn't used to being dependent on her. I was her caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And so it made it easier and I was embarrassed because I felt so comforted. Literally, I just was embarrassed because people would, dozens of people would come up to you and they're so sorry for you. And it's like, it's really okay. But it was when you totally understand what the word comforter means that you never knew could be that comforting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, those two stories with Mom's death and Errol were probably the most profound
revelations in your life?
And there were other times when we were traveling. I remember once specifically, there was way out in the middle of nowhere, there was this car, maybe you remember, and there were people.
Were you going from Wyoming or
here to Utah or something, and somebody was laying down and another person was, and we thought, we probably should stop and see if there's something we can do. And as soon as we thought that, we thought, no, we need to go on. And when we looked back, they got up and
they were just scamming you.
Yeah, they were just going to trade cars or who knows, kill us. Who knows what they were going to do. But we felt like we had been spiritually guided and protected at that point. And I feel really strongly that if we do what we're supposed to do, that truthfully the trials will be easier. Like when we're all suffering at the end, when food is scarce and when all the bad stuff is going to happen, I truly don't feel like I'll be as hungry as other people because I have been obedient to that food request from our Heavenly Father.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I may not be eating any more than anybody else, but I won't be hungry. And I also believe that if somebody were to attack me, I could warn them that I am protected by God and that they do this at their very life's risk. And that and you better plan on killing me because you're going to die or I'm going to die. And I feel when I worked in the temple for 15 years, when I was giving those blessings, they are real. And I don't think the youth realize that you deny yourself a certain protection if you don't take it serious. I mean, you may not need the protection, but Heather, who should have died, a couple of weeks later, a lady did the same thing and she did die. but
Margine's.
Margine's daughter-in-law, not Heather, Whitney. Yeah, Whitney. I mean, she fell 30 feet on rock and just mangled her body, but she is alive and well.
Okay, well, those are some great stories and testimonies, and I was very moved to learn more about Nellie that I don't know.
She was quite a woman. She was quite a woman. And if you go in and read, Sydney has found wonderful stories of Grandma's sisters. I mean, just unbelievable stories of what they went through and their lives. And wow, these were strong people.
I remember when I got my patriarchal blessing when I was 14 or 15 or whatever. And the patriarch was blessing me that I've come from noble men and women who've served valiantly in the cause of truth and righteousness. And through your faithfulness, the same legacy will, be passed on to your descendants. And I was like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But the more I've learned about my ancestors, I'm like, wow, they were noble and valiant.
They were. And the calls were equal unto that.
Yeah.
The Calls and the Papworths and the Bagleys, and they were good people.
What a blessing. Okay, I better stop there. Wow, that one's sick.
Richard Ray. Probably 9, 10, 11, I don't know. And as I went out to the den, which was where we had a TV, and I walked in and I couldn't see across the room. There was so much smoke I don't know if we had a little heater or a fireplace, I can't remember. But he is so keyed into it that he didn't know what was going on around him. And his reports for his practice, detailed, like John, detailed pages to describe what's going on with the patient, stuff like that. My cousin in the same office, his sister took care of the books, 3 sentences and they were gone. I mean, he was getting paid instantly. Richard, it'd take him so long to get the reports in. It was a month or 2 later. And he was more concerned about the healing process, the person, the real thing that was going on, not concerned about getting paid. Do as quick as you can and just get the money. Very detailed. John, very detailed. John couldn't write. He would never have got through nursing school if we hadn't stepped in at finals. With 3 or 4 of us were there, getting his papers done and in, and because it overwhelmed him because he was so detailed, and it had to be right. It had to be just. He just couldn't really function well.
Okay, but when the room was on fire, what was the end of that story?
Well, there were Levi's over a heater.
Like a space heater?
Yeah.
So
then one night I woke up. We had beds like this. Mine was down low and Janelle's was up high. I woke up in the middle of the night and there was flames, just like a row of flames on her bed. And
Like on her blankets or what?
on her blanket. I was sleeping in Dad's sleeping bag, which we weren't really supposed to use this sleeping bag. And I took the sleeping bag, and while I was doing it, I think, oh, Dad's going to kill me. Because I just took the sleeping bag and plopped it on the fire to put it out, which, it's a perfect thing to do. But I just remember thinking, oh, Dad's going to be so mad.
How did they catch on fire?
She went to bed with the hair dryer on.
Those over your head?
Probably. Yeah, that's what we had back then. Probably one of those.
Good thing her hair down.
Nobody was hurt, but.
Are you record and then rewind?
Yeah, here
to
we
see
go.
if it
Okay, I'm saying something.
My name is Richard.
My name is Maddie. My name is Savannah.
I'm Grandma Bagley. I remember when the twins were born, and I think Grandma Craig came the first week. Is that true?
Probably.
And it was my turn, and I came and I slept on your couch, and
Wait.
the babies were out We're
The only couch we had at the time was like a 2-seater. It was like
well, I wasn't very big.
must have been on a.
Anyway, that's where I was. I was on the couch in your apartment. It wasn't that big. That wasn't that small. And the babies were in the room where I was. And my job was to keep Becky asleep as long as possible. And so when the baby started to stir at all, whoever it was, I just lay him on top of me and lay there like this. And pretty much sleep, but as soon as they'd even think they were going to wake up, I'd put them back to sleep with this, just patting them. And they'd sleep really good when they were right on you because they're used to the heartbeat and the body warmth. And I could give Becky at least an hour more by just patting.
I was telling Seth and Debbie that because I couldn't remember. I thought they got married the same year as I did, but they weren't because they were at the handcart reunion where Becky was pregnant with these girls, and they were just courting seriously.
Who is this?
Seth
And Debbie.
Oh, Seth and Debbie.
So they're 27, and so they've been married 27 years, not 30. Like Becky and I will celebrate 30 this summer. And I thought Seth got married at the same time as me, but we were doing the math. We're like, oh no, it was a couple years later.
Did you guys pull handguards?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I didn't know when Debbie was driving away, like literally minutes before they left the reunion, she said, "Oh, your daughters are so cute. I remember visiting you in Provo when they were like a month or two old, and Seth and Debbie were like newlyweds at that point. And she heard your names, and she thought, oh, Savannah is such a pretty name. They named their daughter. They have a Savannah Bagley too. That was the first time I've ever heard that it wasn't just a coincidental. It was like
She
they
loved the
heard your
name.
name and thought that's a great name.
I like
and they
that.
named their own daughter Savannah.
So this is the second Savannah Bagley,
Yeah,
and she's on a mission.
yeah. I never heard that it wasn't just a coincidental Savannah. It was you, Savannah.
It was all your fault.
All right, Mom. I feel like your sisters. This had to have been your sisters. Was it Sydney? Who was here pretty recently, Rob, in your house? Was it Sydney? Anyway,
was it?
we were talking about your mother's death. What do you remember? And Dad, you can chime in too, in terms of and I think my question was more the aftermath of the 2 hours later, the 12 hours later, the 24 hours later, the
more important is the before.
well, that you can tell that part of the story too, but I don't know what happened, like
It wasn't pretty.
Okay.
what Ellsworth had to do, what John, they had to get Julie somewhere, like
They had to get her cut out of the car first.
yeah, all
Okay.
that. Like,
So do you want?
I don't know. I would love
Okay.
it if I knew where the accident site was as well.
We found it yesterday.
Ice cream bar.
Yesterday,
Well, I had known where it was.
Do you want? No. Do we
I
want
would
to start?
love
Jacob, did you
some
get
kind of a
Jacob?
I offered.
marker.
We're good.
Like honestly,
Do
as
we want to start like at the week before and then do the whole?
whatever you want,
You-
but
you can
I would
start
love to
3 days
know
before.
some kind of a marker that every time I drive by there,
126.
this is it.
126.
When between just after 135 if you're going towards Ganab, just after 136 if you're coming out.
I thought it was 126.
I think it's 136 because remember we were doing the math and it was like closer to 40, and it ended up when we were there that it was 130. It was past 135.
Mile marker 135.
From Page. From Page.
From Page, it was past 136. From Mesa, it's past 135. Right in the kind of in the
Between
middle.
135 and 136.
I think you've got that opposite, but we'll go with that.
No. 'cause
Well,
we were
that's still a
driving.
mile range.
We were
but
driving, and when
know
you said
the-
there it is, and I agreed, then I looked at the mile marker, and it was 136.
Okay, so that would
we
mean
should somehow put
100. That would mean 135 whatever
cairn
miles
or something there.
from the
From-
northern
There's
border
a
of
dirt-
Arizona.
There's a
Yeah,
road.
and that's how I figured about where it was,
that
is
goes
because the sign
heads-
said 68 miles
South.
to Kanab. And my
And it's
dad
the
had
only
said
road,
that it was
in that
26
whole
miles
area.
out of Kanab going this way.
and you're going up a little hill, and there's a little mountain kind of over
And
here.
it's a little hill, like that TV
But
height.
the road goes off to some farm or something. That's the only road anywhere. And when I found it, within weeks or something, I could still see,
Are you talking afterwards?
The
Yeah.
skid marks.
Contemporaneously?
yes, 30 years ago, I could still see the skid marks where the car had gone across the line of traffic and hit the
dirt.
road at the time seemed higher, because when the car hit this road,
He didn't hit the road.
it stopped. The
It
car
did.
stopped, and the people flew through the windshield. Two of them did. Julie went down under the steering wheel.
It didn't hit the road. It hit the little mound. And the girls ended up on top of the mound with broken jaws and arms and collarbones.
Anyway, we pretty much know where it is now.
And I remember the first time I saw it, it was like, if you were going slow, you could drive up the, it wasn't like you hit a mountain. It was like a little mound of dirt. But when you're going 160 miles an hour or whatever, or 60 miles an hour, not 100, and you fall asleep and get up the road, then it doesn't do well. But I was thinking of going to Utah.
Okay, before you
conference.
before you go to the spiritual story, I want to say one other thing.
Okay.
So, when Gina and I got married, we were driving back from our wedding to Provo. We drive out past Page, and there was a snowstorm in April, like coming down pretty heavy, and our windshield wipers were just sort of like freezing, right? So we couldn't drive because you snow. And like I'm like with my hand trying to, see where we're going. So we turned around, we went to Page, we stayed the night in Page. Then the next day, we stopped in Kanab at a junkyard to see if we could find a part to fix the wiper motors in case it snowed again or something. And we stopped, and the guy that was running the pick and part, junkyard place, he said, "Where are you guys coming from?" And I said, "We're coming from Mesa." And he said, and we're driving a Plymouth Volare, which is the car that Grandma died in. And he goes, "Oh, that's weird. You're coming from Mesa. There was a family, 30 years ago, that was driving a car like your car from Mesa, Arizona, and crashed. And the mother died, and I was a highway patrolman at the time, and I was the first one on the scene." And I said, "That's my grandma."
Wow, I never heard this story.
I think I heard it once and I'd forgotten all about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so back
I
to you.
thought you were going to say, and I have the part from that car.
And here's the windshield wiper.
windshield
We got
wiper.
This is like the organ donor stories.
Okay, this is a testimony of the Lord is in the details. The story, the talk that they gave. The Lord is in the details. My brother Richard was going to school at BYU, as was Melody's husband, and Sydney was probably there. I had a brother and two sisters at BYU, and it was conference time. And so I thought it would be fun to go because they were going to go to David's and stay, and that was where we, as a family,
David. Is that right?
Uncle David. That's where our
Pearson.
summer vacations were my whole life. It was going and staying in the big white house with my cousins, my uncles. And they'd farm out all of our kids with other cousins that were kind of their age. But I always got to stay at David's because I was the right age for the kids there. So it was always fun to go. And I thought, I'll just go to conference with them and see my brothers and sisters and have fun. I was pregnant with Jerem. And so I was it's really hard for me to leave my kids. Just really hard. Errol always liked to go to the movie, and it was hard for me just to go to the movie and leave him. So going for 2 or 3 days was... So I was questioning in my mind and kind of praying about it and everything. And Richard needed a new car, my brother. Errol dreams where the car is. He sees the car, knows where to go to find it. So he finds the car. When he wakes up, he goes to the car lot that he dreamed about, and there's the car. So they buy the car to take up to Richard. That's why my dad and John were in
A
a different car. I'm giving Mom a permanent. She had just been made Mother of the Year and had the celebration to honor her the weekend before this.
Which we sang at.
The grandkids sang out. It was a big deal. Anyway, she'd been honored, and she was taking 2 investigator convert, newly baptized members of the church to conference. And they were in the same car as her.
Am I mixing stories? Were they Native American girls or?
No, one of them was. Yeah, one of them was their Indian placement girl. Greta. And so, the day before, I'm giving Mom a perm. And I've got her under the dryer, and I'm going to go to the kitchen and fix her some sweet and sour pork leftovers. I mean, I remember all these. When you have really good inspiration about an incident, it's more clear than other incidents in your life. Anyway, so I rounded the corner to go into the kitchen, and I had this feeling of a crash, and the words typed, "You don't need someone else to raise your kids." I mean, it was just a crash and the words. And I thought, not going. So I told Mom, and then that night when I went next door to comb out her hair, I reminded her, gave her a hug goodbye, and says, "Mom, remember what I said, be careful." Because you never know where your thoughts are coming from. You just obey them in case. And so when Oakley called and told Errol that she had been killed, Dad called Oakley. He couldn't call any of his kids. He just emotionally couldn't.
Yeah,
Oakley?
Ellsworth couldn't call?
Dad called Oakley.
Ellsworth called Oakley.
Yeah. And Oakley called Errol. And Errol told me, and the only thing I kept saying,
You're kidding.
"You're kidding. You're kidding." It was just like,
Disbelief.
"You're kidding." And yet it was, kind of ridiculous because, I'd been warned about a crash. But it wasn't for Mom to feel or to not go. And also I had the extremely strong impressions from my Heavenly Father that I need her more than you. She had 60 grandkids to keep track of and go to different things and clean up after and babysit and gardening to do and feeding to do and laundry to do. And she was like Christ in her relationship with people. Everyone loved her to death. She just emitted love and just had so much charity, and he needed her for more important things than, and the same information also came to me. She's given all of you girls all that you need. Your grandkids and your kids will be fine without her. She gave you the tools to cover for her being gone. And it was, when you talk about the comforter, until something similar to this happens to you, you have no idea that comforter, who he is and what he does. I was embarrassed. I was so comforted. Literally embarrassed because people were coming all the time with just such sorrow for us to have lost her. She was an extraordinary person. And it was like, I didn't feel, I knew she was exactly where she was supposed to be and that she was more important there, and she never seemed dead to me. She was simply on a mission. I never saw her dead. Dad didn't want her to be viewed because she didn't look very good.
There was no viewing.
What?
There was no viewing.
She was never dead to me. She's on a mission. She has touched base and told me things a couple of different times, at different occasions. And inspiration for me comes with few words, big understanding.
Wow.
Everybody receives it differently. But that for me is, several people have had physical viewing visits from my mother. I never have, but she has spoke to me. But
And when you say spoke, is it more kind of like boom? Like
It-
it's
well,
just like it's
it-
the whole
kind
thought
of,
all
it's
at once.
kind of like the crash thing. And once it was like, didn't I do good? She just like, didn't I do good? I was sitting in church and Julie and Dave were singing. And what she said to me with didn't I do good was, he was part of the deal. That Julie would have this wonderful husband, and they have beautiful voices, way above the normal. And they sang together a lot of times. And Mom was just so thrilled that Dave was going to take care of her little girl because she was
14 or
16.
something, or
She was 16. She was driving the car. But it was like he was part of the deal.
Or at least when I got on the other side, I'm like, okay, hey, I came over here to help you. You got to, you know.
Yeah. And another time when I came home from the hospital, I wasn't thinking about Mom at all. And I remember the place in the garage. We were parked in the far stall next to where John's apartment is. And I was getting out of the car. I was only halfway out of the car. And she said, if you want to know what it was like when you were born, here she is. About Liesel. And so it was so fun for me to kind of observe Liesel as I was living with her. And I tried to think a lot of the time, how are we alike? I mean, she was an absolutely charming little girl. But I couldn't know or see how we were alike. And through the years, you know, I remember the first time that it was like, oh, wow. She was drawing paper dolls and dressing them and putting the same patterns on the people and little girls that I used to draw. On their fabric, I would make the fabric, and they'd have little polka dots here and stripes here and little stars here. And she was doing those exact same things on her colorings. And I thought, well, that is just, it was kind of like a little, see, I told you kind of idea. Not that it was any big deal at all, it wasn't. But then she, you know, she got older. She was the baby of the family. And so it was hard for me to relate because I was like, I wasn't the oldest, but I took the oldest role because my sister, the really intelligent one, was more like you girls, reading. That was the most important thing, is reading everything that, you know, she could get her hands on. And I was more aware of what's going on around me with my mother, with babies, and the constant mess and confusion. And I was kind of the clean and clear person and the organized. I'd get all the kids' clothes set the night before because to get to church with that many people, it was hard. And so I'd line up all what they were going to wear and their shoes cleaned. And just, you know, I was the oldest child in actions. And Liesel was the baby for 6 years, you know. And the first time that